Welcome to Charts Today, European Energy. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Tuesday, the 11th of December, comes to you from London. And we're seeing oil prices down this morning, but the energy mix in Europe predominantly up. Just taking a look at the macro situation first. The dollar is down slightly this morning, but it jumped yesterday, so that we're seeing that dollar bullish scenario is still looking pretty much in train. The euro dollar weaker as a result, but still just holding on to that short-term bullish chart, but weakening all the time, and the US dollar seemingly winning out at the moment. Against the yen, dollar is down again this morning, but a big jump yesterday put it back into bullish territory. Sterling is up this morning, but dived yesterday to new 18-month lows against the dollar, activating downside targets to parity and 117. We've got short-term downside targets to 122, 122, 124, 126. We've been given and met. So we are seeing a plethora of downside targets, and we're seeing on the long-term chart for sterling some very, very big downside targets below. It's all pointing back to parity. So we really are seeing the Brexit scenario just hitting sterling quite heavily. Against the euro, we're weaker on sterling as well. 110 is the target there, and against the Swiss franc, we're lower as well. The downside target's 104 is now the big downside target there. So you're seeing that weakness just kicking in all the time. Against the Aussie dollar, we're lower as well. Markets recovered a little bit in the US yesterday. The DAX and the FTSE up this morning, so we are seeing a recovery in sentiment. Gold still looking pretty bullish at 12.48. It was nudging $12.50 yesterday, and US 10-year yields are still sitting at 287. That's a good sentiment indicator as well. Coming back to the energy mix, we see here Brent crude is lower, and we've got on the 1 minute chart a downside target of 59.30, so back below that $60 level we are this morning is just showing some bearish sentiment returning. Interestingly, we just saw the dive here as we opened. We recovered a bit, but we're falling away again, so that's on the 1 minute chart. This data all coming from Thomson Reuters Icon, so if we look at WTI, we see we're lower here as well. It's starting to look a little bit worrying on this long-term support level on the weekly cloud. Remembering this is my long-term across the top here, my medium-term in the middle, and my short-term charts at the bottom, 1 minute and 1 minute point and figure charts. Downside target here of $50.50 on WTI, so that's quite key. That $50 level, very critical, and the US market, of course, will be keeping a close eye on that. US Natgas sitting at $4.52, really holding on to that that 450 level, and looking really like the ascending triangle is building here, getting ready for another big breakout. So it'll be interesting to see. We have to wait for the break. And if we look at heating oil, we're lower here with downside targets, a bit similar to crude, and RBOB much the same. We've got a downside target, 139 is the downside at the moment there. Coal prices yesterday rose a bit, and we do have these upside targets. Again, if you're using Trayport, you'll have higher visibility on the screen. You'll have more liquidity, giving you probably just slightly different and maybe better targets with more pricing coming in. This data coming from Thomson Reuters Icon. 88.30, 88.40, 89.70. So we are seeing coal with upside targets. We do have a downside target of 79.80, but we'd need to fall below 84.70 to activate that. Emissions are up slightly this morning. They jumped at the opening, but just coming back a little bit. We on the short-term 1 minute chart, we do have 21.20, 21.40, so we are pushing towards those targets. Interesting that we're breaking the level that we saw back at last week, so that's looking a little bit better as well. NBP, if we look here, we see on NBP we're just that steady rise yesterday, and this morning we're just continuing that. We're up just very slightly on NBP. Sterling obviously having a little bit of an impact here, so quite key there. And we're quite highly correlated on the daily and on the 60-minute chart with crude oil, so crude's fortunes will have an impact there as well. TTF also looking a bit stronger this morning, up 0.4%. And again, if we look at the 1 minute chart here, 24.30, we do have the downtrend fighting against us, and that 24.30 target is not yet activated. We need to move above 23.50 to activate that. Keep an eye on these 1 minute charts. Again, if you're running on Trayport data, you'll have slightly different and more reliable targets with the higher liquidity. 23.90 is the activated target, but that is a counter trend move at the moment. We are bearish below the 60-minute chart as well. Taking a look at Italian gas, we're up this morning, but not looking anywhere near as bullish, and we do have long-term downside targets to 16% lower on PSV. German power is up about 0.4% this morning. Did actually have a rise in the end yesterday, so looking much better. The targets are really much clearer. We've got 53, 53.10, 53.60, and 54.50. So short term, we've got targets to the upside on German power, so looking better there. On the medium term chart, 53.69, 53.05, that's where we're pushing towards, and that's what we're seeing there. And so just keep an eye on those charts. Looks like power prices might just recover as we come towards the end of the year. French power up just under 1%, so looking stronger there as well. The target's less clear. Again, your Trayport data will be producing better results. And if we look at the Nordic power market, up just under 1%, looking really bullish here. Upside targets 45.30, 45.20, and if we look at the 60-minute chart, where we've got as high as 46.70 and 49.40, so 6 and 12% upside potential. So Nordic power looking quite good. UK power not looking as strong this morning, down a third of percent. So we are seeing a little bit of a move there. Polish power also is up 0.8%, so looking stronger there. Italian power weaker, down 1%. Lots of downside targets on the 1 minute chart on Italian power. Again, if you're using Trayport, you'll have better targets there. That's it for today. Keep an eye on those 1 minute targets. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.